Halley Wozniak, welcome to the Underground Society podcast. How are you?
Good. How are you? And it's Halley.
Oh, it's Halley.
Yeah, I'm a whole new bench. Being from such a small town with no creative industry, it's like that job out there is totally not possible for me. And then eventually I found that there was a whole business side to it. And now I'm even in the mindset of I want to work with my friends, bad bitches, and people from Indiana.
Spirituality, how do you practice that in your own life and what does that mean to you?
We love it. I couldn't talk about God without crying until like 3 years ago. The practices that I do in my daily life, I journal, meditation, spiritual podcast, manifestation.
What do you think about all of that stuff that you practice bleeds into your career?
I think that we're all here right now to raise the vibration of the collective consciousness. Point blank period. Find your purpose so you can make it better. Just by living your own authentic self in your life inspires people around you way more than you know. Get woke, bitch.
Halley Wozniak, welcome to the Underground Society podcast. How are you?
Good. How are you? And it's Halley. I should have said that before.
Oh, it's Halley. Okay.
Yeah, it looks like Halley,
Interesting.
But Halley's way better.
It does. So I'm sure you get to ask this a lot, and I even asked you this when we first met each other through Twitter. But how often do you get asked the question, "Are you related to Steve Wozniak?" Which you kind of are in a way, but not that Steve Wozniak from Apple.
Yeah, different Steve Wozniak. My dad's a Steve Wozniak, but I don't get free products from Apple every season. I wish.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Pretty often, I would say.
I feel like Wozniak, like that's where most people know that last name, and you don't see that often. So it's like maybe.
It's like the people that know, the people that don't, because Steve Jobs was the face of the company. So if you really know Apple history, then
That's
you're going to
true.
know where my name is from or like why it's big. But yeah, it's like how big of a fan you were.
I didn't know that until, well, I am a huge fan of Apple. My computer's Apple, my phone's Apple. I love Apple, but I didn't know Steve Wozniak until I watched the movie with who was that?
Ashton
Plays in
Kutcher.
2.5 Men now. Ashton Kutcher, yes.
So good.
And then that movie with, they had all the actual people. They had actors for those roles, but it was all like based on real events. So that's where I learned where Steve Wozniak is from. So anyways, I want to get into your career a little bit and start at the beginning of your journey, because I know you had a little bit of musical experience back in high school. And where did the music industry first grab your attention? When did you kind of like think about, hey, I might want to go into this for a career?
Yeah, when I was graduating high school, going into my first year of college, I had thrown a couple art shows and photography showcases as like my senior project leaving high school. And a lot of the photographers were getting heavily involved in the music industry, taking pictures of artists and doing music videos and stuff like that. And before I really got integrated with them, the only thing I knew was that I loved art and I loved people, and I wanted to pursue a career in this and build a community around it. And once I realized that there was kind of a pathway to the music industry through just art and photography, I took it and I ran. By the time I was graduating college, I was starting finally, right before COVID shut down everything in 2020, actually get guest listed to take pictures at shows. My first, like, in pretty much only major show at this point was Aloam's last show in Indianapolis. And it was like my first official photography debut. But I was also already in the like union board at my school, so we planned all of the concerts. Was in charge of booking the artists, putting on the show, doing the production. I was volunteer coordinator at the final show that I did.
You had experience somewhat then, and like putting on a show at least.
Yeah, definitely. I actually applied to college with a fashion design major because I knew that the major wouldn't fill up, and I probably wasn't going to get in if I didn't go with the like nothing major. And then as soon as I got accepted, I switched my degree to creative industry management and event planning. And I thought that I was going to do like make movies or like be a personal assistant. And then I started raving. And I was like, oh, yeah, no, this is definitely what I'm supposed to be doing. And like kind of put the pieces together. Uh, I was super, super fortunate. I got to do 6 months in LA my junior year of college. Super blessed, got an amazing internship at Red Light Management. Got to work under some huge teams. Yeah, it was like essentially a study abroad, but in the country just for internship experience because being a little kid from Indiana, I was not dealt the best deck of cards to go into the music industry. All the other kids like on my board were like had music industry people in their family or like could afford just to do unpaid internships and stuff to gain experience and I was not that fortunate. So I really had to like fight for it and I had a lot of help along the way. But I never thought that I would necessarily have the opportunity. Like being from such a small town with no creative industry, it's like, yeah, no, that job out there is totally not possible for me. But if you put yourself in the room and keep talking to people and just asking questions and how you can help, just asking how you can help is huge if you just want to gain experience and knowledge, which comes before experience is just figuring it out what it even is that you're trying to pursue.
I feel like
Um,
that's where everyone, or hopefully where everyone starts, especially if they want to go into the business side. Like I started with production too. I mean, I know you did that a little bit in high school, but I did that after high school. That was my first like thing, and I literally the exact same thing. Walk up to the promoters that were throwing the show, and I was like, "Hey, I don't know, like I'm not looking to get paid for this, but I am thinking about going to the music industry. Is there any way that I could help?" And then from there, it just started. Yeah, it started the snowball. So, for sure, big component of being successful in this industry is literally just how can I help and not expecting. Especially in the early days, the big thing is like not expecting like money necessarily, like just volunteer time and be willing to give first before you get anything from the industry.
this is a career that you're in the long haul for. It's like you're not going to make money in your first 5 years. You do it off of your passion. Like that's what's feeding you at that point is your passion for the art and the love for the people you have that you're like pouring your energy into to help their careers grow. So funny actually. When I was in 7th grade, I was in band and I am actually tone deaf. Like I can't tell when like new songs get mixed into the set often until like that one sound comes in or like the lyrics come in is like really as soon as I can tell like oh a new song is playing now. Whereas all my producer friends like the one beat drops like the first sound comes in from the mix and they're like oh this is coming and I'm like cool I'll find out in like 30 seconds. But I was in band and my teacher then told me that I was tone deaf and living in a fantasy world. And I ran out of the classroom crying and I never looked back. And I was like, okay, so I'm not going to be a creative. Like, I can't make music. And then eventually I found that there was a whole business side to it. And I'm like, I can still be involved in making music and doing this, even if I am not the creator myself. And it can be even like more influential and like soul fulfilling than just making a craft. But it was really interesting having to go through that dynamic, being like, I don't think I could ever pursue this, to, oh, there is still an avenue for me to explore in this.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel. I was gonna ask you. I said you were talking about photography earlier, and I was like, oh, that's probably why she ended up going like the business route because she was like in photography, and like that's more on like the business side of things. It is still a creative portion of it, but then I was like, oh, that's probably why she fell into business. But that I kind of relate the same way. I tried to take guitar lessons when I was younger and like drum lessons and all kinds of stuff, and I just never like I don't know. I just didn't like the create that doing that creatively. But then like business side of things, I'm like, oh, I actually like the creativity because you still have to have creativity in business. So it's like I like exercising and I enjoyed that way more than like trying to play an instrument. So I definitely can relate. That's cool that you kind of got into the business side that way and you know you were still able. That's I was like I want to do music, but I don't want to be a musician. So
Hmm.
yeah.
I feel that just because the community that the music industry has and like the world changing powers you can see it have had time and time again. I mean, big cases that I like always look back at is like Woodstock. That was a cultural moment that could not have happened anywhere else. That was just like an imprint of time that was a huge transitional phase. yeah, just the way music has impacted me. Like music saves my life day in and day again, like time and time again, literally just having that support just through sounds. And I mean, sound therapy is like a whole nother thing that I could go on a huge tangent about, but I will save you my craziness there. But it's just so special and unlike anything else that I had to have a piece in it to, I don't know, continue to make changes and,
Yeah,
I don't know,
that's dope.
apply to the culture.
Um, yeah, no, that's super cool. That's a big reason why I definitely, that's one of, I think why we could probably agree in this is the culture of the EDM world is like, I think the best in all of the music industry. I've been to country concerts. I've gone to other. I've talked about this a lot, but I've gone to like 400 other shows outside of EDM in my lifetime because my mom's a huge music lover, but not EDM. And yeah, just being around all the different cultures, I feel confident in saying that like maybe it's just me because I like it the best, but the culture in the EDM scene is it can't be beat.
I have been following Excision for years, and there was one tour that I couldn't go to a Chicago stop. And I'm like, I'm not missing the tour. So I fly all the way to Seattle by myself to stay with a girl I met at a different music festival once. And I ended up meeting my soulmate and like the love of my life just because like I took the chance and like followed the vibe all the way across the country, and now small town girl from Indiana lives in Seattle, gave me the opportunity to literally meet my people. Like I sat in Indiana and I'm like, this isn't where I belong. These aren't my people. I don't know what to do or where to go. Took this chance, took this opportunity, trusted my intuition, and I'm all the way here now. The client of my dreams appeared out of thin air, like kind of via Twitter, but also just being in the same spot in the same circle, us both being like pretty lost in our lives, not knowing what we're doing and really being able to forge a relationship with each other first as best friends. And then after we got to know each other better, she asked me to be her manager, and it has completely changed my life. She's now my third client, third time, best time. And it's in the genre that I've always wanted. So like I couldn't have found a more aligning phase in my life than what this season has came to be for me.
That's awesome. How do you think the move to Seattle, I mean, you kind of just explained this, but the move to Seattle, like how did those events transpire and like what initially caused that move? Was it the fact that you got a new relationship or was it the fact that your work kind of called you out there or what was like the main reasoning at the start?
Yeah, it was not work related necessarily. I just came out for the show, loved the energy that was out here, and I knew I wanted to go somewhere. I needed to go somewhere, or I was going to
Okay, so
stay at
you
home
were
for a
already
year.
thinking about leaving.
Yeah. Well, actually, at the time when I actually met him, I was completely committed to myself. My mom kind of really needed me at home at the time, so I was really ready to get a house right next door to her, live in an apartment by myself, like really start figuring out how to be an adult for the first time in my life and just really go on that journey myself. And I was like 100% dedicated to that, to stay home, take care of my mom, and learn how to do this reality. And that whole plan was immediately thrown out the window 7 months later when he was like, you have to come now, like you just need to be here, you need to be here with me, but you need to be here. And I'm a skier. I was like, yes, let's go to the mountains. I'm in. The ocean and beach is amazing. The only thing I would take or leave is the all the gloom, but it keeps you inside, it keeps you productive. I'll be on the mountain more this winter. So yeah, it was just really trusting my intuition. Like this was not an opportunity I wanted or expected or needed at all right now. Like the last thing I wanted was a relationship when all I wanted to do was learn more about myself, to be more aligned with my purpose and figure out what that was. I thought I was going to be a yoga teacher. When I moved to Seattle, I was studying yoga because I had pretty much given up on my career in the music industry because it just hadn't happened for me yet. Like I'd had two clients. One was really successful, still is really successful, but our careers just didn't continue down the same path. And I was ready to throw in the flag. I'm like, I have this gift and I know there's something bigger, and yoga would be a great way to still communicate that. And then this whole opportunity came up, and I can't lie, I really struggled when I got to Seattle. I thought I made the wrong call. I didn't know what I was doing. My mental health was so lacking that I couldn't even focus on yoga classes and get that done. Um, but I really started to look at myself and take a step back, and I went to therapy, and my mental health completely plummeted because it was something
Got it.
new. It was really
Away from
challenging.
away from
Yeah,
home is hard. Yeah.
away from home, I didn't know anybody. Like I knew a couple friends that I made from coming out to a couple festivals before I moved to like meet everyone and like check out the vibes. But I wasn't okay at all, and I really started working on myself, going to therapy, doing like mindfulness practices, just start working on things. Like started to launch my clothing company again, just like get creative again, and then everything kind of started to take a turn here, and I opened myself up to the relationships with people that were here and ended up being huge for my network in my both my personal life and my career. And I just never would have expected anything like that to happen, obviously.
Random question, but how old are you now?
25.
25. Okay, so yeah, the timeline kind of matches. That's so cool that you started when you pretty much when you graduated, right?
Yeah, I had my first client in 2018 when I went to LA and worked for Red Light. I used them as my case study for my end of semester project for them. And then as soon as I came home, I started working with Lucas Lex. He's like an indie artist that kind of diverged into pop punk. Uh, she no longer makes music under that alias. She has like a couple different projects, just like totally self manages themselves and is just a
Shout out to
creative
the artists out there
genius.
that might be listening to this that manage themselves, because that depending on where you're at in your career, like I know Ulasile, he like still manages himself, and he's been like a professional for a long time, and he's like maybe he's had a manager at some point during his career, but like for as far as what I know right now, like he manages himself, and like having to manage yourself, no, thank you, no.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people like just to have the complete creative control and would rather like outsource their friends to do their videos instead of having a manager find a videographer because once again, creative control. Also, like you're not giving you any money out of your pocket. Yeah, everything is you. Staying independent for like my artists especially like is one of the most important things to me. Um yeah, one of the most important things. Like I've already told my client, I'm like, when you're ready, like you're not signing anywhere. Like, yeah, we'll do releases, but I'll build you a record label. And that's the reason you'll never have to leave me is because I will build you your label. I promise. As soon as you're ready. So you never have to sign and never have to sell out, and you just get to create your own little world in this big crazy industry.
What do you think gave you that? Because that's a very like entrepreneurial mindset. What do you think gave you like? Where'd you get that from? Did you learn it from
Oh,
anywhere, or do you think
definitely
it was just like
working.
intrinsically yourself?
No, definitely working with Lucas Lex. His
Oh, okay.
passion for staying independent. I mean, I always have felt that way because I have my whole bit to pick with the music industry as much as I love it.
Yeah,
A whole
I
bit
think
to
we all
pick
do.
with it. Yeah, of course. Not to be like consumed by that and do keeping the money in your pocket and being able to hire your friends who are passionate and don't even necessarily know what their purpose is, but it like could be a spot on your team that allows them to pursue their purpose and their passion. And I think, yeah, working with them and their whole mindset on it, and then being able to want to uplift the people around me, but you can't uplift the people around you if you don't have a door for them to walk in. So I really think you have to build the door for yourself to allow that to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I wanted to bounce back real quick to you being from a small town. What do you think like was one of the most difficult parts of like building a music career being from Indiana, like where you're from? Was it just like location or like because everything like why I asked this is because like a lot of the work at least that I do and like for this podcast and stuff like I don't go out that often even though I work in the music industry and I'm like at home. A lot of my relationships are built online over what we're doing right now, or you know through Twitter how we met. So just what was I guess with that being said, what was the most difficult part about being from like a small town where you're from?
Towards the end of my time there, it was definitely like I capped out on what I could do. Like I couldn't put on for the city any more than what my best friends were already doing for it. Like one of my best friends in my hometown runs the Evolve production team, and he does shows every single Friday at this one bar called Lamasco's, and then like almost monthly at like a cute like immersive little center that we had built. It's like made for Instagram pictures, but if you put a DJ booth back there, it gets pretty cool. And so he was already really doing that, sourcing talent from elsewhere. There are two EDM artists that are coming out of Evansville that are two, three. I'll leave room. I bet there'll be more. I know there will be more that really come out of there. But when I was living there, there was one guy, Oddly Godly, is from my hometown. Super awesome. He's signed to Ophelia Records, which is Seven Lions label. So he already was doing it. Like I couldn't manage him. He was self-managed, as a good artist is. Couldn't do anything with him, and then everyone else also wanted to stay independent, or I wasn't mentally there to be able to be there for them. Like Brokaw, also from Evansville, just played Soundhaven this year, really making some noise right now, even though he just announced a break. I know he's going to come back even stronger. But I talked to him about managing him, and he was like, yes, let's do it. And then I up and moved to Seattle. And it kind of just fell through. And now when I just went home and asked him, and he's like, no, I'm okay, because he knew he was about to announce a break. So I really just capped out on my potential of the market I had to work with. Closest place I could go was Chicago or Nashville. In Nashville, I had a couple friends.
Nashville's huge, but...
Yeah, Nashville's huge. My other friend, Teleport, also from Evansville, is making some awesome music, plays shows with Lalo and a couple other people down in Nashville pretty often. Super connected with the Soundhaven family. I mean, Ushu is the Solace Family Presents.
He's been on this show.
Indiana. Yeah, he would bring his speakers down to the little bar that we did our shows in.
Now he's playing
awesome.
Lost Lands.
Seriously, I caught him last
Craziness.
year there too. It's so crazy. It's just awesome to see people. I don't know. It's just awesome to see people pursue their passions. Like I always wanted to put on for my city, and now I'm even in the mindset of I want to work with my friends, bad bitches, and people from Indiana, because all I wanted to do was put on for my city. And even though I had to leave, you can still do so much in that regard, which is really cool to see, and something I had to release pressure of myself from, because when I was there, that's what I really wanted to do. Like I thought that was my purpose, and maybe one day I'll take a massive festival to Indiana and it'll be great. But yeah, it's just capped out on what I could do, and
just capped out.
Having to network and like wanting to throw shows and needing to be in the room to shake hands with people, to book artists or meet artists or gain recognition as a manager or A&R or someone just in the industry. You have to be where it is, in my opinion, for me, when I'm doing specifically. It's been so beneficial for me to be where the industry is, just to be in the room, making a name for myself, promoting my clients in person. I'm not the best at social media. I know you and Pierce talked about this. I don't necessarily love social media. It kind of drains me.
I've talked about this on other podcasts when I've been on, been a guest, and they like call me content creator and stuff. I'm like, yes, I technically am, but at the same, I'm a content creator, I guess, podcaster that doesn't like social media. Like I do it because I freaking have to do it. And on my personal stuff, I do enjoy that to a certain degree because it's just me being a weirdo. But like, when it comes to like work or like marketing on, it's a lot. And like, I know I have to do it because we're in the day and age that we are. But yeah, dude, social media, if I could live in a world without social media, I would prefer that.
See, I don't know if I would take that catch-22 still, though. As much as I'll complain about it, introduced me to the client of my dreams. Like it.
That's true. I've met a lot of people through that too. That's a good point.
The opportunities and connections it makes, like you can connect with someone across the world to help you manufacture a product that would have never been possible even 50 years ago. Like the opportunities.
We literally wouldn't be sitting down on this podcast right now if it wasn't for social media. So
of course, exactly. So I love it and I hate it. I see it as a amazing tool that can sometimes be detrimental, literally detrimental. Everyone should take a social media break when you need it and then come back stronger than ever with more purpose in what you're posting. Because my whole thing on social media too is just like genuinely being authentic and showing your good days and your bad days. And you don't have to look perfect in every picture. And I don't know, just sharing your struggles and sharing your successes. And you're a real person. You're not just some attractive face behind a screen. Like, there's so much more to humans than what we are allowed to share on social media or like what we're comfortable sharing. And I think it's good for us to be vulnerable and share the most that we can because someone else out there might be struggling or successing with the exact same thing and really need to hear that. And you never know when that'll be.
You mentioned something that we talked about your high school days already, but you threw an art show in high school. What was it?
We had to do a senior project is like assigned to graduate. And most people like go and volunteer at the animal shelter, right? And I'm like, no, I want to do something better. And my dad started the art community in my hometown with a art gallery that's no longer there, but really started the arts district by making an art gallery and blowing glass. And my parents followed the dead and sold glass. Like, that's how I really got a huge start in music.
Okay.
That's how I was like, I know I'm supposed to be doing this.
That makes sense. Yeah.
Like, my parents followed the dead around. I can follow Excision until like I find what I'm looking for. You know what I mean? And so I was like bouncing ideas off them and just being a creative person, wanting to continue build experience in that. Like, I was already looking how to build my resume for whatever it was that I was going to end up doing. I already wanted resume builders. And the art show was like my first opportunity to like put an event that I fully am producing on my resume. And I got a partnership. I was super lucky. And when you're in high school, a lot of people like to help you out. So take the advantages early. If any kids in high school are listening to this, shoot your shot. People are there. They want to help the kids that have passions and dreams. And if there's something you want to do, ask around. There's someone there that wants to help you. I'm sure of it. And I teamed with our local arts council of southwestern Indiana, and they gave me their gallery for one night. And I sourced art from probably close to 30 artists. I made flyers for submissions and reached out to all of my artist friends.
Was it like a fundraiser type of thing, or?
No, it was just my senior project. It was just
an
assignment.
That's dope.
Yeah.
That's super cool.
Something I had to do. I put one art piece in it that I literally had recycled from my mom because she's a way better artist than I am. And my papa bought it. And I think that was like the only piece that sold. It's a whole show. But it was really cool to, like, I've just always been about promoting people and sharing my friends' art and just sharing my friends' art, promoting them, making it seen by other faces.
Which makes you such a great manager because it's literally what you're doing.
Yeah,
as your career.
Pretty much. I haven't changed too much. It's just gotten a little bit more complicated.
Yes. Got a little bit more in the weeds.
Yeah. And it was a really successful show. I asked a couple of my friends that like sang, had a little band to come do a little live performance. And we had like a little snack booth and everyone just walked around and looked at the art and celebrated art in each other and our creativity for the night. And it was so magical and eye-opening for how your thoughts can create your reality. I came up with this idea for an art show.
Manifestation.
Yeah, I knew that I wanted to promote my friends. I wanted to hang their art on a wall. Asked around, got to do the whole damn thing. And it ended up being like pretty successful. I mean, for a first show that was probably marketed for like maybe a month or two. Ideally, I'd be marketing an art show now for like 6. But it was my first thing ever. You live and you learn. Like,
right.
And then
it was just a high school project. It wasn't like crazy, like professional level, I'm sure. So
yeah,
it wasn't as big of a deal.
Of course. And then couple months later, I like really had to itch and like, all right, we got to do something again. But now I'm not in high school. Like, who's gonna give me a gallery space? Like, what do I do? I'm broke as fuck. Like, and then in the Evansville art scene, we have this thing called First Fridays, and it's where a whole bunch of like stores and venues in place like open their doors and do like art exhibits
We have
or
that. We have that here where I live too, similar,
hell
but
yeah.
they call it the same thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just art. Just walk around the neighborhoods and look at art and listen to music on people's front porches and really just gives everyone an opportunity to be creative and be their authentic selves and show their emotions that they put into these creative endeavors like on a platform for everyone else to enjoy and take and leave what they need and don't from it. And I had a bunch of homies that were photographers, and they were all from my hometown. And I'm like, okay, this is perfect. I'm going to do a photography showcase, right? And this one was called Points and Perspectives. I co-hosted it with my
That's
friend.
a cool name.
Thanks.
At least it's already better. The name is already better. So.
Right. I was actually think I was approached by one of the guys that was in my initial art show, Aaron Solberry, or maybe he was one of the photographers. Now he's making like a whole art club and it's amazing, like doing so great in the hometown. We love it. But he approached me, wanted to do this photography showcase, and I already had the background of one. So we really came together with AR Network, B, just like our work ethic, and grinded this out, found the 5 photographers we wanted to do. He did a lot of like the marketing and stuff for it. I think he came up with the name. And that one was even more successful and really gave gave me great relationships with all of those people that I got to show their artwork. And it was really cool. We even had like some of like a lot, we posted a lot of them on the walls, and then we had one of the artists hang theirs from the ceiling. So it was like pretty immersive, not even immersive, but it wasn't a typical art gallery. It was like had much more feng shui to it. And I mean, all of the photographers were there. Some of them are really notable now, like definitely getting published in nature photography magazines and just getting some pretty awesome placements. Like one of the guys is now like doing van life half the time and just taking pictures in the mountains all the time with his friends and camping.
I feel like so many people do that now.
I know, but photography
van life's
allows
such a big
him
thing
to do it. And like that is like obviously content, but that's like more art than content with it.
For sure, yeah.
And it's just so crazy to see where everyone has gone from that. But those are my first 2 art shows that really were like, okay, I'm supposed to be in this world and I don't know where I fit yet. But even before that, I was an athlete. I like ran track, ran cross country, did cheerleading until I got kicked off of that because I was like a little too crazy. Just like I partied way too much in high school, and they're like, you're a liability, off the team. Same with student council. They're like, you're a liability, out. So like a lot of the structured, and then my legs gave out on me in running. I got compression syndrome, and my muscles outgrew my casing.
Dude, I can't run. I was a swimmer in high school. I can't run.
Nice. Yeah, I was a diver too for 2 seasons. Did not enjoy it at all.
Yeah, I didn't either. I did it 1 season. I didn't like it.
Yeah, my dad was a state champion, so he forced me, and I'm like, this just isn't my thing. Like, we can try again next time. And then because I got like left out of student council, I found yearbook as the extracurricular, and
That's
I was like,
perfect. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Journalism's pretty cool. And then I joined a documentary class called Feel the History, and I learned how to use Premiere, like become efficient in Premiere in high school. Like that might be more normal now, but in 2013, becoming proficient in Premiere was like crazy. It really opened a whole nother world to me. And then I was like, oh, maybe I can make movies. And I hadn't really found music yet. Like my first real concert I think I went to was like probably my senior year of high school, like real concert.
Damn.
was
That's always so surprising to me because again, my mom being a music lover, my first concert, I was like 3 years old. I barely even remember going. So it's just like ever since that time, I had always gone to like a bunch. But yeah, it's like most people don't go to concerts until they're like almost an adult, which is crazy to think about.
I had gotten really lucky and went to an All American Rejects show for free when I was in fifth grade, actually, in Breckenridge, Colorado, because they had just done like a surprise show. And I thought that was cool because they were my favorite band. And then they were in the town
They
where
were
I
the
was
shit back in the
skiing
day.
for
Absolutely.
free. And my dad's like, one of your favorite bands is in town. Like, guess who? And I'm like, Taylor Swift. And he's like, no, like, come on, kid. I wouldn't, like, we're not going to Taylor
Yeah,
Swift.
no.
And it was All
Yeah.
American Rejects, and we got to, like, get right in the side, and they took me right down to the front row, and they were like, okay, this is actually dangerous. Like, let's back it up. But that was super transformative for me, just being gifted that opportunity of right place, right time, like, to no other extent there. And then my real first shows were Mac Miller and Wiz Khalifa.
Oh, I wish I could have seen Mac. Holy shit. I'm jealous.
I was so lucky. I was so blessed in my life. I ended up getting to see him twice, and it was amazing. And then I'm gonna
I
get
know. I felt lucky that I got to see Juice World a couple times.
so lucky. I happened to go to Flognaw one year in 2018 when I was in LA, and I was gonna go to a taco set. Cause I'm like an Odd Future fan. Like I love hip hop, and everybody else is there, but I'm like I love Odd Future, and I'm like everyone's like, why do you want to go to this taco DJ set? And I'm like, for the culture. What do you mean? Juice World comes out, surprise guest.
Why do I do anything? It's for the culture.
And I got to see Juice World, but I was like planning on it just being like a chill set. I was eating my noodles like in the very
Definitely
back,
not
and
the
then
case.
Juice World came on, and I'm like, I gotta eat my noodles, but I need to rage. Like, what is happening right now? I'm like, I would have planned differently if I would have known.
There was 2 other events that we touched on the high school days. I want to move on to college now because I know the stuff that you did in college was also very like transformative, and I'm sure a lot of what you did in college you apply now. But first, I want to start with the concert committee. What was that, and how did you get involved in that?
Yeah, so at college, there's always like activity fairs, student activity fairs, and it has all the booths of every organization at the college that you could join. And I was definitely just walking around, and I found Union Board, and it planned concerts, and I didn't get into it right away. I was like, oh yeah, maybe that's like not for me. I don't know like really what I'm doing yet. And then I started and I popped into a couple meetings like pretty irregularly. Like you're supposed to go every week, every Tuesday, but I would go like once a month or something, super regularly just to kind of show face. Like I also had no dedication, no very little like self-love at that point in my life, very little discernment. Not in like I was in the cusp of my spiritual journey. Like my very first like awakening was at this point, and I was like in a very dark place, but I kind of kept peeking my head into like something I thought that might be cool. And by the time my sophomore year came around and I kind of like started to grasp more of an idea, officially changed my minor to event planning, and I'm like, okay, because fashion design minor didn't work out. English was too hard. Don't know why you need English for fashion, but make it make sense. So I kind of had to like start finding other avenues of like, okay, well, what's my minor going to be? What am I actually going to study here? What's my focus? How do I gain that internship experience? I'm going to backtrack for 1 second. I had also had a media internship leaving high school where I just did marketing for a like people that did production. So I was like really, really trying to gain experience anywhere I could in the media marketing world. The media marketing world is really where I started because being from Indiana, I thought this is a viable career. I can take pictures and do this and it's viable. So I just started going down and down from there. And then I found Union Board and they had like a marketing committee on that and then the concerts committee. And by my sophomore year, I was going regularly and I was really enjoying it, really loving it. I had a lot of weeks though where I didn't want to go. And I'm like, I know this will benefit me. I know I need to go, but like I can't get off the couch right now. And I was always really guilty on myself for missing out on all of those connections, like deeper connections and information that I could have gained in those meetings that I missed. But not every week's going to be perfect. And it's not till you really can light a fire in yourself to say, hey, I have to be here because this is how I show up for myself. It changes everything for sure. But you have to get to
Especially
that
when you
point.
have like, for me, it was like a defining moment of like, once I was kind of just like, I didn't want to put effort into something that wasn't going to be long term, I guess, and not for something that like, I didn't necessarily love. And then, yeah, once it like, I was like, saw the path for music, I was like, oh, I actually really love this. And like, I could, my self discipline, my like how the way I showed up, like you just said, and all that stuff just completely flipped on its head. And I was like, oh, okay. Yeah, this is definitely the way I'm supposed to go, because I'm actually like, I give a shit long term about this, and I actually want to apply myself, and like I actually have to practice. Like in the music industry, you don't sometimes you have a boss depending on your position, but especially being an entrepreneur in this industry, like you run your own schedule, you like have to get your work done, you have to like, otherwise things don't happen. So yeah, it's I'm sure college showed you a lot of that.
Yeah, and I mean college necessarily didn't even like I succeeded so much in union board in the event production side. I was a volunteer coordinator for our campus concerts like by that point. But I was also like the social media director for our radio station. Almost lost that job. They just couldn't hire someone else because it was so late in the semester, and they're like, you were already the replacement, like you just got to really pull it together for like the rest of the semester. But that like didn't even light it under me necessarily because it wasn't exactly aligned with where I was supposed to be. And even with Lucas Lex, I thought I was doing really great and things were getting done and moving at a super fast pace. One of their songs blew up on TikTok, or a cover of a song they did blew up on TikTok, and people
That
were
can be life
thinking
changing.
that they wrote some Frank Sinatra song. He did a cover, and people are like, "Oh, you made this?" And I'm like, "That's so funny, just like how culture happens like
Yeah,
that."
TikTok, and the adults on TikTok maybe would know, but for that audience, yeah, TikTok audience, no.
Fly Me to the
They're not going to know
Moon
Frank
is
Sinatra.
what he covered, and it
Oh, what the hell? That's such a what?
I'm like, I don't even know if that's Frank
Such an easy
Sinatra,
song to know.
but like,
Yeah.
that vibe. But yeah, that song blew up, and it was actually really hard for them to cope with the like instant, like overnight fame that came with that. And they have synesthesia, so they see colors when they
What is that?
listen to music.
Yo, that's sick. I wish I had that.
Right?
I didn't know that was a real thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, that's so cool.
And that's why they're like such a musical genius, is because they have that other special superpower, which is so crazy. But I grew them to 100,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and our paths went different ways.
Yeah, and even then it wasn't aligned 100% either. Like it was still like on the right path, but it was just a stepping stone for you. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly. Like that was my first real client, that I did get to grow and watch grow and implement these marketing methods that they hated. Like their mental health probably plummeted because of the TikTok song. They just now started talking about that song again, like it wasn't something that they were proud of or would open up about, that they even wanted to claim is theirs. And it was just a really, I mean, they're just such a special being. It's amazing. But it was just a really interesting thing to see them navigating where they're trying to go in their career with me trying to give them advice of where I think they should be going. Yeah, and it just wasn't 100% aligned. And I started working with their new manager for a little bit. Also didn't fit in on their team. I mentally wasn't there. I still am just now like having things click for me to be passionate and dedicated and have discernment and actually discipline with all of this stuff because the fire is lit now. But back then with them, I was still going out drinking all the time, like blacked out with our like shared note in my pocket open and like typing things, like not even typing things I didn't need to type, but just like not being professional. And they also wanted me on like 24/7, which you do need to be. I mean, you don't need
to
to
a
be,
certain
but
degree, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They wanted me on 100% of their time for their team, and I couldn't do it.
No.
I could not do it. There was no way. Like, I just wasn't the person that they wanted to add to their team, even though I had been their support up until now. And yeah, that was that. My career in music was done and over, and I was going to do yoga and bring it to festivals and be in music somehow that way. You just have to search out. Like, there are activities for everyone. Like, I went to school to party. I literally chose to go to the worst media school, to party because it was a better party school. And that's not what you should necessarily do in college.
You got to give yourself grace too because you were younger. So I feel like everyone kind of grows, like has that period of time that they're like just I had it. Like most people have that party animal stage, and then it's like, okay, the ones who like really last in music are the people who like, yeah, you go for the party when you're young, but the people who actually genuinely love the music stick with it. So thinking back on those times, it's like just cut yourself. Like, I think about that pretty often. I just I like obsessed over it the other day. I was like, damn, why did I do all that stupid shit back when I was like 21? I was like, okay, cut myself some slack. I was 21. Like, relax.
Exactly. And everything you experienced then put you to exactly where you are now, which is something that's huge that I definitely stand and live by. But yeah, just seeking out the organizations. And like, I didn't find the college radio station WIUX until my junior year, and I came home from LA, and I'm like, I need to do more. Like, I'm going to host a radio show. So I did that, and I played all of my friends' tracks on the radio, and some of the weeks my episodes were really sad.
They
and
gave you an actual spot?
Yeah, I mean, with college radio, they have
cool.
radio shows. Like,
oh, it's college. Yeah.
College radio, yeah. And they have their own A, broadcast station, B, internet station. And you get to pick which one you want to be on, depending on A, how big you want it to be, B, how appropriate you want to be. So I definitely chose the internet one. I sent the link out every week. It was called Woz's World. I had a whole website built, and I would have like artists on, or like my friend that played the cello on, and just like talk about how they like to do art. And I had a fashion designer on, and then in between our conversation, I would just play a couple songs. And when I didn't have a guest on,
that's originally how this show started. We used to feature a 30-minute mix from the guest, who, if they were artists, and then we'd also play a few songs that were just like that were new releases or something that I liked like in the beginning. But I started this podcast because I wanted to start a radio station. Obviously, it took on a life of its own now, and it's a actual podcast now. But yeah, it was a much different format when I started because it was inspired originally by being, wanting to start my own radio station. So the radio world, I have some questions about that. You were telling me about, you bringing people on for interviews and stuff, but was that something that you thought about maybe sticking with long term, or was that for a while what you wanted to do?
Yeah, I had not always, but once I started getting more of the grasp of things and how you can be your own creator or personality, or building your own personal branding in the music industry outside of being an artist, or even if you are a manager. I mean, I'm doing a clothing line too, but I firmly believe that you need personal branding. Like, I do want to be like a lifestyle brand with my clothing eventually. But the only way you really get the lifestyle rounded out is by living authentically and sharing your own journey and who I am, like being the lifestyle that I want to just put out there and have people take what they want and leave what they don't. I had learned about Kerwin Frost. You know who that is?
I don't know. No.
Kerwin Frost Talks. He makes like pretty funny but serious, just like interview video things.
Okay.
On YouTube, and he
music wise or just
music wise.
Okay.
He was from New York, and so he grew up around.
Send me some of his stuff when we're off the call.
Yeah,
because I'd like to check that out. Yeah.
He grew up in New York around like A$AP Rocky and like Ian Connor when he was a thing, and all of those people. Now he has like interviews with Tyler the Creator, and it's just like.
Very cool. Okay. So he's big time.
Like a radio host, or like a radio host, because that was the one avenue that I had in Indiana as an option, is internet or radio station. They never wanted me. I applied 8 million times to the radio stations in my hometown. Just do whatever. I like got the email of one person and like went on a studio tour, and I was like, okay, call me if you need me. And I just really think they didn't have interns. or something. And I'm like, no, I'm telling you I'll work for you for free. And they were like, yeah, we're good. I'm like, cool. So, yeah, I knew it was an option. Once again, that was just like the closest, tangible, most logical, viable path that I could see at that point, kind of.
Yeah, very much relate. Very much beginning of my career too. Yeah, that's crazy. Well, we are getting close to time, but I did want to touch on a couple more topics before we get out of here. We've brought it up a couple times, but I know you're a very spiritual person, and by you just saying that you believe that the things that have happened previously in your life are what brings you to where you are today. What does spirituality? How do you practice that in your own life, and what does that mean to you?
Oh, wow. That is such a big question. Spirituality to me is connecting with yourself to your truest purpose and being able to live according to the path that you're supposed to and finding that purpose. And it's like the hardest thing. Like, I've been super blessed in my life. I've felt super called my entire life to believe in something bigger than me. Like, I have felt a really strong connection my whole life. And a lot of people will go most of their life without feeling that. And I understand how blessed I am. A little crazy I sound, but how blessed I am to have that inherent connection with whatever else is out there in the ether.
Yeah,
And
I'm a Christian, and I talk about it a lot. So feel free to talk
yeah,
about however you want on this
I
topic.
was a Christian. I grew up Lutheran. My mom put me into a Lutheran school because we couldn't afford the whole private school. But my papa said, if you send her to Christian school, you can do that. And then I was in Young Life. I did all this stuff, but I was
Hey,
always
same,
like,
same,
yeah. But I was always like a bad kid. Like, I smoked weed after Young Life and like
same.
was just like kind of not all the way there. But I just felt such a connect. Like, I couldn't talk about God without crying until like 3 years ago. Like, I could not
That's
talk
crazy.
about my
Whoa.
connection without bawling my eyes out until recently. Until I
Well,
started like
congrats
referring
on making it there.
Thanks. Until
Yeah.
and then still super Christian, really struggled with my faith for a long time in college, really struggled with my faith because my ex at the time didn't believe in God. And I couldn't fathom that you would just like be a good person and want what's good for the source and the one, and like we're all the same, like whatever comes from that, you could just intrinsically want to help make it better without like giving it a name. I couldn't fathom, ruined my relationship because of it. For I'm here where I am now for the best reasons.
Honestly, yeah, I'm at the point now, especially being in my later 20s. I'm 26, but being at this point in life now, it's like, and like thinking about like, I want to get married someday. I want to have a family someday. Like, it's so hard being in this industry, and like my personal struggle with trying to balance these things is like being in the industry and finding someone who like is a Christian but also understands the EDM like lifestyle and like the music industry side of things. Like, it's so rare, dude. So I feel, and even just relating to other people, not even talking about like relationship, but just like being in this industry and being that type of person is like very much, especially in the early days, until you kind of figure out your lane eventually. But in the early phases, it's really hard to like navigate, and like you feel like you're not doing the right thing. But at the same time, you're like, why do I have this deep desire? And I feel like I'm following my passion, my purpose. But at the same time, it's like, is it the right direction? Because it's full of sin. Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. See, and I have a really different look on Christianity now that I've taken a huge step back from it, honestly. I would say that I am not religious anymore whatsoever. I have definitely outgrown that school of thought, but I am extremely, extremely spiritual because the connotations that spirituality, I feel like the things that you feel negatively about, spirituality allows to pass because it is what is. Like, I took a Buddhism class in school, and that's kind of what started to turn me on.
If I wasn't Christian, I know somewhat a little bit about Buddhism, and if I was not a Christian, I probably would, like, if I got to like choose a religion, if it wasn't Christianity, it would be Buddhism for sure.
Yeah, that's kind of what
I agree with a lot of their teachings.
Yeah, and my whole thing with my clothing brand is made with mindfulness, and everything I research for mindfulness goes back to like yogic and Buddhist traditions, which is just really interesting that it's been around for so long and it's still so true. But I really did a lot of self exploring, did a lot of acid and psychedelics, honestly, to have the mindset that I have now on that. The practices that I do in my daily life, I journal as much as possible. I get on my yoga mat as much as possible, which is not a lot. Both of these things, not a lot. Like whenever I feel like I need to, journaling a little bit more. Um, meditation, guided meditations. I listen to a lot of spiritual podcasts. Listen to a lot of manifestation coaching things. And I have like my song bowl right here in front of me on my table that lives here, and it gives me positive vibrations. And I burn Palo Santo and incense and crystals, and astrology really got me into spirituality because it was like something else that made sense for me that was intrinsically. Because the thing with astrology and crystals or whatever, like it helps you learn about yourself. Like you're not studying anyone else at that point. You are
Yeah,
studying yourself
it's all
because
you.
you create
Yep.
your reality. Exactly.
That's something that I'm luckily my parents are open-minded Christians, and I was raised to be that myself. But yeah, there's so many different aspects of like, just because I call myself a Christian, like why can't I meditate? Why can't I, do some of the other practices just because it doesn't fit my personal religion? Like it's still spirituality, and I think it's important to practice those things.
Practice is so, so, so important. Practice of controlling your thoughts, practice of controlling your actions, practice of getting on the yoga mat, just breathing, practice on focusing on your breath to return to the present moment, which is where all that anything ever occurs ever is here
Yep.
in the present moment. Like just breathe, please. Take a deep breath right now and let it go and feel yourself just a little bit more centered. I do a lot of visualization practices. And once again, a lot is a stretching word. I try to practice visualization exercises of like a bright white grounding cord going into the ground to root myself and ground myself when I'm starting to feel like crazy. And like I imagine a purple white aura, like aura around me to like raise
Oh,
my
that's so weird.
vibration.
For our listeners, you're wearing all purple and your hair is dyed purple too, so that's interesting.
Purple vibrates at the highest frequency, and it is
Okay. I don't know much
connected.
about that, so
Yeah,
interesting.
it vibrates at the highest frequency, and it's connected to your crown chakra, which is your chakra that relates to like your higher powers and your intuition. And the color you wear helps activate that chakra. And I mean, I should probably be wearing some red to like be a little grounded right now, but I am a purple person for sure. I genuinely feel like my like vibrations are higher when I'm wearing purple than red because red vibrates the lowest. Studying chakras is really crazy. Has been monumental in my journey of understanding myself in my physical body and myself spiritually as well. Is super crazy. Chakras. I recommend.
What do you think about all of that stuff that you practice bleeds into or relates to your career?
Oh, I wouldn't be any close to where I was today had I not started practicing yoga in high school when my legs gave out. I started doing hot yoga to cross train, and it really pushed
Hot
me
yoga is
in.
crazy. I've done it once.
I love it. I'm like not in nearly where I was in my practice because it takes complete mental fortitude to hold yourself in those postures while you're dripping in sweat. But the thing that gets you through it is you're connected with your breath and you're breathing the entire time. And whatever comes up in those sessions, like just try to clear your mind, try to be present. It's a meditation practice. Yoga really is at its core. I wouldn't be anywhere close to where I was right now had I not started practicing yoga 10 years ago. Just because the presence it gave me, the knowing to myself, the trust in myself it gave me to to think to think or lack thereof thinking, to just breathe through those emotions that come up in those moments and just release that isn't something that we're taught to do. But yoga really allows you to learn that.
You're
Um,
physically learning that. I took a couple of yoga classes, like actually like in semesters, high school or not high school, college. And yeah, you physically like you have to push through those mental barriers. You have to breathe through things. You have yeah, and then you can just apply those lessons that teaches you into like your everyday life.
yeah, and just being present and taking your mindfulness off the mat and controlling your thought patterns so you're not in negative thought loops and you can think about the things that you want to do and want to accomplish and then take action to do it and then watch it become your reality 5 years later or a year
But
later or
yeah,
whenever if you just keep working at it with intention. Like intention is the huge thing about it as well. Set an intention for your practice. Even just picking up the song bowl this morning, I wasn't present at all while I was doing it because I was angry that it kept clicking in a way that it wasn't supposed to because I was going too fast and I'm out of practice. Because I just got it out to Seattle finally with me. But I was like frustrated doing my bowl. But the intention to ground myself and start my day in this mindful way was there. So it's just that, it's practice. You know, everything in life is just practice. Like learn the lesson, move on, try again next time. And that's way easier said than done. But
and a lot of people don't understand the discipline side of a practice like that either. Like sometimes you don't like even just relating to like sports. Like I know there was like a bunch of practices in high school that like for like sports teams that I didn't want to show up to, but you got to show up, you got to practice. Like you have to do that in order to get to the next phase or whatever it is, you know. So
but it really
yeah,
just comes back down to being still, quieting your mind so you can hear your intuition. You can connect with your body. You can learn who you truly are and why you came down here in the first place with the purpose that you decided for yourself to pursue to make the world a better place. Like I firmly believe that we are all here right now at this crazy time in the phases of the earth where
the world is insane. Yeah.
insane. But I think that we're all here right now to raise the vibration of the collective consciousness. Point blank, period. Find your purpose so you can make it better because it starts with you. Just by living your own authentic self in your life inspires people around you way more than you know. Like one of my best friends who got into spirituality before I did just started reading the books and doing the practices and like doing the things. And I'm like, wow, you're really cool now. Like, what happened? What are you doing? What are you reading? Like, why are you like this now? Why are you just so cool? I
What
want to
happened
be
to you?
cool.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, get woke, bitch. And I'm like, yeah, I'll figure that out right away. You know what I mean? And she kind
Yeah.
of just like recommended me a few books and like sent me a couple nice messages and like started slowly pushing me on the path as to where I could discover more for myself.
That's awesome. Yeah. I think that's what we've been talking about and stuff. My favorite part of all that is just like the self journey, like relating it back to like you growing yourself. Cause I think that translates so much into, you know, the music industry and, you know, what we do for our careers. Before we get out of here, I did want to ask you, we didn't talk too much about what you're doing now with your management team. Not a Sheep, I think it's called. You have one artist currently, and she actually just did a collab with Resurrect, who's been on this show, which is one of my favorite Resurrect songs. She's amazing. But tell me a little bit about your company, how that started, who you're working with, all the good stuff, and you know what you have coming up for the future with that.
Yeah, I have had this idea for Not a Sheep Management since 2020 when I was managing Lucas Lex. That was the company I was going to build for them. But I officially filed for my LLC just 2 weeks ago, or like just a month ago, like not very long ago. I finally just filed for the LLC as soon as I could, as after Canby asked me to manage her. Officially put that down on paper. We're still not official on like contracts or anything, but that's just like a learning curve and something that you get to. And it is really nice when you genuinely, because it's really crazy to navigate the music industry and genuinely have a friend that you believe in and you can trust, but still knowing that the world is a fucked up place and needing to protect yourself and your best interest is a crazy thing that you just deal with in the music industry all the time. Like the faith in people or faith in protection, I guess, is a
Yeah.
really interesting thing.
It's like a prenup, but
Yeah.
for music.
Yeah, exactly. Pretty much. Just covering all of our bases. But yeah, started a management company. Canby sang at Lost Lands with Resurrect. They debuted their song Silhouettes. It came out October 6th. Everybody go stream Silhouettes
So
by
good.
Canby and Resurrect.
That's in our playlist. So it's Society Selects. It first linked in the description. Go check out that song.
Yeah, amazing. I'm gonna have to share that. That makes me so happy. They've had a couple articles written about them, but really just she is one of those people that can kind of manage herself. Like she's been working with Resurrect for like over a year now, and she did that just all by herself, which has been an amazing life-changing opportunity for all of us to have that song come out and be so successful. But her being my best friend as well as my client, one of the main things too is I'm just like her best friend and her support system and like there for her on her bad days and her good days. And I'm like
that's how I am with my guys too.
Yeah. I'm like reminding her, I'm like, hey, you should be working on this. And she's allowed to tell me I don't have the time or energy for that today and I'm going to go at my pace. And I'm like, okay, well, I'll take care of it later. You know what I mean? Like we'll get on it later then. And just having that understanding, like so many people in the music business are like, come on, put out, abusing these artists, working them to death. Like Avicii almost even is like my case study for that. And your team just has so much of you and you can't take it. Like the whole part of this,
especially when you get to that size, you get spread so freaking thin when you're that level. Yeah.
And the new like music industry that I really want to build and be a part of is allowing artists to be human. And like with social media, once again, in this rate of streaming that comes out every single day, they're constantly forced to pump out music, but that's not what makes real art all the time. But coming from the business side of that, you have to be so understanding and so patient and so willing to wait for the art that means something. And yeah, that's not a sheet management. It can be. Things are just starting. I don't even know how great it's going to get. I am in talks with a couple other of my friends. One is Trounce Music. He's really amazing. Has a song coming out soon with Smile Only. Should be this year. They have one remix of theirs up on Spotify right now. I have a couple other people I want, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes.
As the manager role, what do you look for in an artist when you are, now that you have your LLC set up and stuff like that? What are some of the things that you're looking for as you're going to be acquiring new artists to your team?
Just if they have like a good solid branding started, you have a nice name, nice logo, like that's the bare minimum. Like yeah, you should be making music and producing, but like you don't have to have 20 songs ready to come out for me to want to work with you. A lot of my friends, like I go on a principle of character. Like, do we have something in common? Do we have the same goals? Do we have the same values? Do we have similar mindsets? Do we accept each other coming from where we are right now? Do you accept me as me in this moment so I can accept you as you in this moment? Because we can learn and we can grow together. But it's really just the drive to be making a brand for yourself and to be bare minimum learning how to make music. Like Candy's a vocalist. She's a vocalist as of now. And she's learning how to mix and learning how to produce. A lot of my friends has like if they do that I'm looking at to hopefully take on and put on my roster, they are producing or they are mixing or they are learning how to mix or they're working on their first hour-long mix, but they have the name they want to go with and they have a lot of people that love them and support them are two things that I look for, like an ingrained fan base from your own personal community, which once again can be built, not a deal breaker. Your personal branding, name, logo, how you portray yourself, what type of music you're going for, just like knowing kind of a direction you want to go in. Because even what you think now probably won't be where you end up. But as long as you have a path that you're walking on, and to stay on that path, yeah, and just be learning. Be so hungry for knowledge and be so passionate about the community and just wanting to make a difference. Like, I only want to work with artists that want to make a difference in the music industry going forward, to really be a positive light in this kind of dark world sometimes.
Yeah.
Um,
I
and
think
yeah,
the underlying theme of all that is just like someone who you're almost. I've heard this term used with other people in the music industry who are had more experience than me, but it's almost like the manager artist relationship is kind of like a marriage in a sense. Like we brought up prenup earlier as a joke, but it is kind of like a marriage where it's like, do we have the same morals? Do we have the same values? Do we have the same like goals? Do we have like, are we going to be on the same path? Because otherwise, yeah, I might be your manager for like a year, like you've experienced. I might be your manager for like a year or two, but then are we really going to make it the long haul? Am I really going to be in with a good client? You want to play the role of making whatever future or goals or dreams they have a reality, and you want to be there for that in the long haul. So I think the underlying theme is just like you have things in common and you want the same thing in life or same thing in your career. Yeah.
being compatible. I mean, listening to their tracks and being like, yeah, I really like this, or listening to their vocals
And yeah,
and being
liking
like,
their music.
yeah,
Yeah.
I really like this. But I get a gut feeling when I hear or meet people. I'm just like Lucas Lex hummed me the shortest melody ever. I immediately got full body chills and was like, okay, you're gonna be a star.
You definitely know. Yeah.
Yeah, hummed
When you get the
it,
chills, that's like for sure.
hummed it, and I'm like, okay, yep,
That's
I'm
wild.
in. I was like, I did not want to do this right now, but we're doing it because I have no choice, you know. And Canby project is completely based on mental health and the good and the sad and the angry and releasing your emotions at the shows. And I literally just talked about my therapist with this. A huge part of like mindfulness and therapy can be like sound therapy, but also intentionally moving your bodies to channel whatever positive or negative energy in whichever direction or in or out of you is hugely related to just dancing and breathing and listening to music that literally the bass vibrations affect the crystalline structure of water, which we're 70% of. Like, I could go down a rabbit hole about metaphysics and raving. Like, the correlation there is huge.
Just dance and listen to music.
Yeah.
You'll be healthy. Cool. Just that bottom line. Just do that. You'll be
perfect.
fine.
Eat an apple a day. Good to go. No worries. But yeah, her whole project is mental health and releasing the emotions and feeling your emotions and working through your emotions. And my whole thing is I want to build a community to bring people together like Excision has done for me. Because I followed him across the world, I met my people, met my dream client, met the love of my life. I'm in the most beautiful city that I could ever imagine living in. And all of that just because someone else believed in themselves so much and wanted to build a community and worked hard every day to build the festivals and build the shows and put the teams together and create this environment to allow us to be authentically ourselves in. And I just want to provide, I can't believe I'm not crying right now. I'm so proud of myself. And I want to provide those opportunities for other people to meet their people, to join a community that serves them.
That's amazing. Well, we are going to wrap up here, but is there anything else we may have skipped over that you would like to talk about? I tried to cover all the bases here.
Oh, that was pretty good. Oh, I also have a clothing line.
Yeah, you mentioned that.
Out.
Yep.
Yeah, or a brand called Sensory Overload. Our tagline is made with mindfulness because we are sustainably sourcing all of our blanks, using
cool.
local like vendors and people to do the embroidery and really the manufacturing. As of right now, I'm doing all of the marketing and shipping and everything myself that way. I'm really just taking pictures of my friends and my clothes and posting them on my Instagram. And since my niche market for the brand is kind of raving, but it really could apply to anyone. Because a lot of people have already come up to me and be like, I have sensory overload. Like, I need one of your shirts. And I'm like, yeah, It happens to all of us. Like, you need one. But just being able to be a light with my clothing brand as well and bring a lifestyle aspect in it and build a personal brand, which is so important for anyone that wants to have influence. Like sometimes people get on me and they're like, "Oh, you do kind of like the clout." And I'm like, "Yeah, I kind of do because it allows me to share my message with all of these people. Like it gives me a platform to promote my friends. It gives me a platform to share my stories and all of this
It's a
stuff."
part
Like,
of what you want to do and what the difference that you want to make in life is just kind of part of it. You got to do it, especially in today's day and age. Yeah.
yeah. And so it's like not like I care about the cloud. It's like I want to make a difference in the world genuinely. And you can't do that unless you have influence. Because who's going to
Yeah.
hear
It's,
it,
it's,
you know?
it's awesome to hear that you want to have the influence for good too. Cause I see so many like, especially big influencers. It's like, they might have had good intention when they started, but now it's just like literally a clout chase, and so they can make millions and millions of dollars. It's like, why? I'm not going to say that I don't support those people because obviously it's like pop culture and stuff to watch certain people, but yeah, yeah, it's good to hear that you want to have the influence for good and not like just to make money or it doesn't sound like it's about that at all.
My homies to be able to create whatever their soul tells them to create and to make a living off of that. I don't want them. That's why I'm called Not a Sheep Management for my management company. I don't
That's my
want
next question.
my people to be a cog in the system. Like if you're a sheep, you're just a little cog in the machine going around and never breaking out of that cycle. Like please don't be a sheep. Like look at the truths out there that are coming to light now about like energetic fields and what the human body can do and what manifestation really is and can be. And a lot of that was buried for so long. And just go and find the truth and don't be a sheep and figure out reality for yourself. And you don't have to believe what you've always been taught. You're allowed to choose what you align with and unlearn and unlearn and unlearn and unlearn all of these things that society tells you is true and tells you
It's
is right.
freaking hard though. That's super hard for
Have
so
you read
many
the Four
people,
Agreements?
even including me. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
See, that's my first thing. I'm like, go read the Four Agreements because that clicked with me immediately. Like, I feel like I read that once and I'm like, yeah, I'm a whole new bitch. Like, I don't remember anything. Like, I am a baby, like, 12-year-old boy starting with this fresh slate was my whole mindset after that. I'm like, I'm going to forget everything I've ever learned in my whole life. And I'm going to make up what I want to believe. So just don't be a sheep.
And that's so powerful too.
Question everything. Question authority. Question yourself. Like, just do it. Because I promise you, what you will find will not disappoint you. Because the things that you don't even know that you want right now will come to fruition and you can achieve it. It just takes a lot of faith, a lot of prayer, a lot of belief, a lot of work, a lot of hard work. But it takes all of those things to break out of that. But search it. You have to search it out. Don't be a sheep. You are not meant to be here just to be another person. You're not meant to be normal. And maybe you do feel like you're meant to be normal, and that's okay. That's your role you play in this world. It's just like being a listener out there and enjoying this. But I'm also here to tell you, you don't have to be normal. That there is a purpose out there for you. And it might take till you're 45 to find it. Literally. I have a ton of my friends right now. They're 25 with me, and they're like, yeah, that's great for you. I've never felt a tinkling of my intuition in my life. Like, I kind of enjoy this, but I don't want to make money off my hobbies. And I'm like, that's great. Do it
Why
anyway.
not?
I'm kidding. I know.
Yeah.
He's like, I don't want to be a sellout. And I'm like, okay, fine. Don't be a sellout.
Right.
I'm going to work for myself.
I'm going to go work for myself and do what I love. So see y'all on the flip side.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, just don't be a sheep. Go and find the truth out there for yourself, whatever that looks like for you.
That's awesome. A couple of last questions. Where can listeners find you and keep up to date with all you have going on? I know you have a few social media channels.
I am at HSWoz, at HSWOZ on Twitter and Instagram. Those are definitely where I'm most active. And then my link to Not a Sheep and Canby and Sensory Overload are all in my bio there too. So you can check out my brands there.
Beautiful. Final question. If there was one piece of advice you could tell yourself when you first started Not a Sheep and managing artists, even before that, what would that be?
That the line to where you're going is not a straight one. To not give up and to not lose faith, that even if you take a step back or fall off, to never lose that fire that lights your soul so that you can return to it. Because I'm not going to say don't give up, because I fully gave up, and I needed that time in my life to give up to be exactly where I am now. I had to go through yoga classes to learn all of those baseline like morals. I took all of my morals that I learned from my yoga class and put them into sensory overload and put them into Not a Sheep management. Straight
That's
up.
cool.
I said, I am going to have my yogic principles be my business principles. So just be easy on yourself. If you're not where you want to be, keep trying. Just keep figuring it out, because one day you will be where you want to be. So just have grace with yourself. And yeah, have grace.
Awesome. Thank you so much for your time today, and I'm glad we connected. Thank you for pitching yourself to be on the show. This was such a good conversation, and honestly one of our longer episodes, so thank you for being here.
Hey, yeah, thank you so much. I'm so happy that we got to connect. It was definitely for a reason.